I have just finished watching Netflix's Get Smart with Money, and I believe it was very well put together, and whilst watching it, I found myself naturally reacting to parts with a sour taste and others really positively. The documentary does truly speak on major issues that is being faced by not just Americans, but also people across the world. The personal finance documentary follows several individuals from different socio-economic backgrounds as they examine their spending habits and with the help of your 4 financial coaches, figure out their financial goals and ways to improve their money mindset. The 4 coaches included Peter Adney, aka Mr. Money Mustache, Tiffany Aliche, aka The Budgetnista, Ross McDonald, aka Ross Mack, and Paul LePant of Afford Anything. As someone who has a passion for finance and how money makes the world work, hence starting this YouTube channel, plus currently being a university student studying economics and finance, I've always loved to watch content like this and see how other people are faring and seeing potential people in the same boat as yourself. The documentary offers very basic and understandable information, whilst also showing a range of people and families in different situations, which stresses the importance of financial literacy for people across any age range, no matter the age, gender, or race, from an NFL athlete to a newly stay-at-home dad. One of the stories I found myself paying the most attention to was between Ross Mack and Tess Tabor. Ross Mack is the CEO/creator of Mackonomics. He is a Chicago native with a Wharton School of Business degree who is committed to expanding across to financial awareness and education. In his current role as a media personality for BET, Revolt TV, and The Street, former Wall Street professional Ross, who worked for Morgan Stanley, leverages his brand to empower people by fusing knowledge and entertainment. Tess Tabor, who played his college football at Florida, who was fighting for a contract after facing injury setbacks and spending the majority of his signing money. As someone who has played a sport their whole life and recently started getting a bit more pocket money for my troubles, I found this really interesting to see someone like Tess, who made it professionally and is now receiving big paydays. And I also like that they showcase the real side of professional sports, the short career span that can be taken away from you in any instant, whether that was making out of the practice squad, being shipped to a team across the country, or being cut like the majority of athletes. They never truly know what the future holds. Tess also faced a fear to begin investing, which is something very common for all beginners, no matter their background. There is a level of safety when you hold onto your money in the bank or seeing your money as cash that calms the nerves, compared to putting your money into investments, which maybe no one you are close to even does, and you feel like you're putting your hard-earned money at risk. But I believe Ross Mack gave some of the best and simplest advice you can give, and that was to invest in the S&P 500. This is something I always stress to people. 99% of investors simply won't beat the S&P over an extended period of time, and this also takes the worry off your shoulders of picking stocks and when to sell. Overall, it's just a better way to invest your money, with a peace of mind knowing you diversified into the largest companies in the market and can expect roughly a 10% annual return. I myself also do this, with majority of my personal investments being in the S&P 500 or other broad market tracking ETFs. But you can see, as Tess continues to learn about investing and gets past the initial fear, now he is comfortable and willing to increase his deposits, which leads to his portfolio growing and hopefully preparing him best for when he hangs up the cleats. One thing that shocked me in this documentary was around debt. As someone who studies, I understand and can relate to people who are paying off student debt. For most students, that was an investment to hopefully kickstart your career and get your foot in the door. I know for myself, the reason I started studying is because I knew I was going to get a good investment, as furthering my education would allow me to continue learning whilst meeting like-minded people, and at the end coming out with a qualification that was required for a majority of possible career paths I wanted to potentially follow. When they covered credit card debt, however, and showed how many people struggle and were in their situation, that was a surprise to me. Don't get me wrong, I understand credit card debt is a major problem. But I mean, look at this article from Yahoo Finance recently, which put out saying most Americans have some sort of credit card debt. A recent Go Banking Rates survey found that 30% of Americans have between $1,001 and $5,000 in credit card debt, 15% have $5,001 or more credit card debt, and about 6% have more than $10,000 in credit card debt. Although 6% may seem like a small amount, that means that based on the survey results, 14 million Americans have over $10,000 in credit card debt. And this was also highlighted with how many people put themselves in these holes with unnecessary shopping, as seen with Ariana. Her situation is one I didn't follow as much, but it was good to see someone in her situation for other people as well in her shoes, and at the end when you could see that she was making progress by getting rid of her high interest debt. Yes, this is something everyone should do, and something I tried to do, and it's great to think, if you still want it, I know I've done this in the process before purchasing something, such as a new phone, and after thinking about it, I've been happy that I didn't jump so quick to make the purchase. Whilst carrying on, there were a few things that I wasn't quite as big of a fan of. They weren't major, but they stayed in my mind and I wanted to speak on them. The first was to do with Lindsay and her coaching. In the beginning, she was getting advice that she should have a side hustle. And at this time, Lindsay was working 50 hours a week across 2 jobs, which already is a lot on someone's plate, and getting a side hustle could just add too much to the plate and add extra stress and work, and can kind of come across as that toxic hustle culture you hear about. I mean, I'm someone who works and studies and also does this as a bit of a side hustle, you could say, so maybe it does come across as hypocritical, but I know that it is good to take breaks, and sometimes for certain people it can be too much on the plate. But after that, another situation that happened, when she stepped away from one of her jobs, I think was definitely a big step in the right direction. But I also give advice to have a plan laid out and have your expenses in check before making such decisions. Yes, stepping away from one of her roles allows her more free time to work on something that is potentially more beneficial in the long run, like starting a business or a new opportunity where she can learn new skills. But yeah, I always just give advice to have an emergency fund ready and have a plan and track how long you can last without that extra income. This was also good to see Kim and John go through fire and the possibilities of retiring early. And I actually have a funny story about this. I was working at one of my previous jobs and I was on the phone with a client and he was talking to me about his journey with fire and told me to check out Mr. Money Mustache, and he only had about 6 years left to retirement. So yeah, it was good seeing another real life example, especially after I'd seen it with my own eyes. Another thing that made me happy was the fact that they checked up on them and they tracked their progress compared to potentially just getting in there, making their content and leaving them. I hope after the documentary is over, down the line, they still occasionally check up on the people and see if they're still following the goals and can potentially offer some more help. I touched on it earlier, but yes, having an emergency fund is vital to anyone, no matter what your current financial position. You never know when something major could happen in your life, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, where people were getting laid off their jobs and losing opportunities, or you might fall ill, or even have smaller things, such as your car breaking down or damages to your house that you have to repair. It was also cool to see Tess get his opportunity and Ross be able to go watch him, and seeing that major pay increase when he was finally given a go. Overall, after watching Get Smart with Money, I think it was a really positive documentary, and it will really help reach a broader range of people to showcase that there are other people in their shoes, and hopefully supply steps that could be taken to help their own situation, and hopefully learn more about money and how it can work for you and the things where you want to stay away from. I would recommend you go watch it. Even if you are someone who has their financial stuff sorted, it's still a great watch. This was a bit of a different video, but possibly I could get more into these in the future. But leave your comments on what you've thought of it if you have potentially watched Get Smart with Money. And tune in every week for more business and finance related content.